I'm Sam from Cultaholic, and these are our socially distanced predictions for WWE SummerSlam 2020. So for those of you that have forgotten, I am still Cultaholic Heavyweight Champion, despite the fact that nobody decided to send me my belt during lockdown. But that being said, the belt itself was so tired and old. It had the old logo on it, it was scratched to pieces. So I guess it's my honor to introduce to all of you the brand new Cultaholic Heavyweight Championship. Look at it. Oh, it's just beautiful. So in terms of reactions this time around, Adam will be live streaming along with SummerSlam. It's just not safe for us to return to a standard reactions just at the minute, but you know, as and when that situation develops, you'll hear it first here. And of course, we will be doing our usual plethora of SummerSlam content both after and a little few sprinklings of exciting things beforehand as well. But as always, there is a punishment. So as usual, we have 3 punishment choices available for our patrons up at patreon.com/cultaholic. And yeah, essentially you get to pick what horrible thing happens to us. But the 3 choices this time are, of course, SummerSlam chops. Didn't even need to look at the paper for that one. Of course there was going to be SummerSlam chops. Boat trip, which just sounds nice. So it's probably horrible knowing that, shower of bastards. And finally, winner gets custody of the loser. Oh, that classic SummerSlam stipulation. So without any further ado, we will move on to our first prediction, which is MVP versus Apollo Crews for the United States Championship. So for this one, I think I'm gonna go for Crews, because while I can see MVP, you know, using his buddies to come in and help achieve a quick victory, should the Hurt Business really be meandering around with a US title if we want them to be taken a little bit more seriously? Maybe they should be moving up the card. Maybe this is just a nice way to draw a line underneath it all. So yeah, I'm going for Apollo Crews.
Hello, I can hear you loud and clear. That's right, I'm here live broadcasting from the Thunderdome, and it is absolutely magnificent. I'm taking Apollo Crews for this one, which is upsetting because MVP has been infinitely more entertaining. Sure, MVP is a bit older, he's not as strong in the ring as Apollo Crews, but his character is so much more fun to watch. And I feel like I'm always being harsh on Apollo, but he's just not that enjoyable, is he? Sorry, pal, but you're winning. Good job.
So first of all, MVP versus Apollo Crews for the United States title. I'm going to go with Apollo Crews to retain. I know that it would be cool if MVP won historically because he's one of the great United States champions of the past, but I don't think it would look good for Apollo to lose to MVP. I feel like Crews needs to pick up the win, and I think that they're gearing towards basically down the line Bobby Lashley taking the belt from Apollo Crews, or at least facing him in a big singles match. So for now, I think Apollo Crews is going to retain at SummerSlam, beat MVP, and then, you know, maybe something will happen further down the line. But for now, it's looking good for Apollo, and my prediction is him.
Hello, I'm Ross Tweddell, and welcome to the actual biggest party of the summer, hosted by myself and my good friend Chardonnay. I am predicting that Apollo Crews will defeat MVP for the United States title, but crucially, after the bell, Cedric Alexander, who of course Apollo Crews shafted to one side on this week's Raw, will beat up Apollo Crews after the bell, setting up a match for Payback where Cedric Alexander will challenge Apollo Crews for the United States Championship. Cheers, and aye.
I feel like Apollo Crews needs to retain his United States Championship here. He pinned MVP on Raw, which suggests that MVP isn't going to be the US champion. I think he's going to win here, but then Lashley's going to end up with the belt. So that's another story for another time. I am predicting a win for Apollo Crews at SummerSlam, though.
Next up, we have Mandy Rose versus Sonya Deville in a hair versus hair match. And I mean, there's only one person here that can win it, isn't there? She's already had a haircut. You're not going to cut it further. And Sonya's already made her bed, and she can lie in it. She was the one that brought all this upon herself, so bald Sonya's going to be the thing. Unless she's going to somehow find a way to not have her head shaved, isn't she? But yeah, I'm going for Mandy Rose.
Mandy's winning this one, isn't she? Because she's the babyface, and it's a hair versus hair match, and the babyfaces almost always win hair versus hair matches. This is no exception. But Sonya Deville is going to look seriously badass bald, so something to look forward to.
Next up, we've got Mandy Rose versus Sonya Deville, hair versus hair. Now, I'm going to go with the age-old tradition of saying that heels never ever win these hair versus hair matches. I don't think Sonya Deville's got a prayer because she's the heel and Mandy Rose is the babyface. And yeah, babyfaces always win hair versus hair matches, don't they? I'm going to go with Mandy Rose, and I'm feeling pretty confident about that one. She's already had her hair cut a little bit, and that's enough hair cutting for Mandy. It's going to be Sonya to take the big old L.
Sangria at the biggest party of the summer with myself and Chardonnay. Now, I don't like to say I don't fancy Sonya Deville's chances in this hair versus hair match, but already, in the illustrious history of Friday Night SmackDown, we have seen Sonya on the winning side of things on 2 separate occasions when Mandy Rose has been on the other side of the ring. So then, since Sonya has already lopped off a portion of Mandy's hair, making Mandy apparently look like a soccer mom, and let me tell you, as somebody who used to kick the soccers in his childhood, I never saw a mom at the soccers who looked like Mandy Rose. So what's that all about? I have no idea. So with all of that in mind, Mandy for the win. Sonya will be bald.
We love a good babyface win when we do hair versus hair, and I feel like that the management would want to keep as much of the luscious locks of Mandy in place. So I think Sonya Deville is getting a badass new look with a shaved head. And she's going to Raw Underground to break some heads. But I'm predicting, therefore, Mandy Rose to win the hair versus hair match.
Next up, we have Dominik Mysterio taking on Seth Rollins in a street fight. And come on, it's got to be Dominik, hasn't it? He's doing it for his dad and his other dad and his mum and his sister and everybody watching at home. We've grown up with Dominik. He was a child on TV. He's existed within this universe before. It's a giant return, so he better be downing all of the drink. Although it's not really a return, is it? Because he's been meandering about on telly a lot. But still, I think Dominik's going to pick up the win here. I don't know if it's going to be a decisive win. It might be a messy win, but I still think it's right for him to pick up the win in his debut match.
Can't believe I'm saying this, but Dominik Mysterio is picking up the win here. There's going to be a run-in from little Rey Mysterio, who can't see anything. He's going to hit a 619 on Seth Rollins, and Dominik is going to pick up the win, which will set up a tag match for the following week, because there's another pay-per-view, Payback, and it'll be a tag match. It will be Dominik and Rey versus Murphy and Seth.
Now the match that I'm most looking forward to of all the matches at SummerSlam 2020, Seth Rollins versus Dominik Mysterio in a street fight. And while logic would dictate in the story that it's time for Dominik Mysterio to teach Seth Rollins a lesson, after all he's blinded his dad, he's battered him with a kendo stick, it's surely set up for a Dominik win. I'm still going to predict Seth Rollins because when it boils down to it, Seth's a wrestler, a main event level, one of WWE's biggest stars, and Dominik is not. He looks very promising, I'll give him that, but I just cannot see WWE giving him the win over Seth Rollins at this moment in time. I think maybe Retribution might get involved and give Seth a bit of an undeserved win just by happenstance, but I think that could also happen in a match later on, which we'll talk about towards the end of this video. For now, Seth Rollins, by hook or by crook, is going to pick up the win.
Now, WWE, as we've seen over the past few months, Ronald Mysterious almost lost his sight, globalization, all of that good stuff. If you're going to have Seth Rollins win on Sunday at the biggest party of the summer, after this one with myself and Chardonnay, what message are you sending to the kids of today? You can go and nearly blind someone and you'll prosper as well? Absolute bollocks. Ronald Mysterious will get involved. Ron and Dom will double team Seth, and that will allow Dominik Mysterious, who will become Prince Mysterious himself, to pick up the big victory. The big victory. Sangria hits all the right spots.
Whilst Dominik paid his dues by getting a beating the likes of which we haven't seen in quite some time. Gosh, his body looked a little bit like a zebra crossing, didn't it, that Raw? Seth Rollins is winning this one. I feel like it would be a weird flex to have Dominik beat Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. I think Dom will put in a great performance and he'll get applauded, standing ovation from whoever is there to standing ovate him. But it will be Seth Rollins who gets the win at SummerSlam.
Next up, we have Andrade and Angel Garza taking on the Street Profits for the WWE Raw Tag Team Championships. So I think if anybody has proven their worth during this entire lockdown period, it's got to be Angel Garza and it's got to be Andrade. And I personally would love to see them with these titles. I think Street Profits have had a pretty good run, but maybe it's time now to just shake things up a bit.
The Street Profits have had a decent enough run, right? That stuff with the Viking Raiders was great. But it's time for them to drop the straps to two men who I really do believe are the future of the biz. Sorry, Montez. Not so sorry, Angelo Dawkins. And then Angel and Andrade can go and do a bloody bubblegum chewing competition with the Viking lads. I've booked it.
The Raw Tag Team title match between the Street EPs and Angel and Andrade's. Well, that was awful. I'm going to go for the Street Profits because one of them's been poisoned and they need revenge immediately. Also, on the rumoured Payback poster that got leaked, the Street Profits were quite prominent on the poster, front and centre almost, and I think that means they're probably going to win and be champions going into it. On the other hand, maybe because the show is Payback the week after SummerSlam, they're in a prominent poster position because they want Payback so badly. I don't quite know, but I'm going to just go with my gut, say that it's time for the Street Profits to retain, and then we'll see what happens further down the line.
Just like Ronald and Dom, WWE. Excuse me, potentially, what kind of message are you sending to the children if somebody can poison somebody else and then win the person they have poisoned their tag team titles? Street Profits will win because how can you be poisoned and then lose your tag team titles as well? What message are we sending to the kids? The message I would like to send to the kids is that sangria from Tesco's is very, very nice. But yeah, Street Profits for the win.
Now we know who poisoned Montez Ford, we can roll on with the story. The story being the title win of Andrade and Angel Garza. These guys have been destined for the Raw Tag Team belts since they got put together. And I feel like they're going to do one over on the Street Profits here and consequently become the champions in the process. I can see Street Profits having some rematches on Raw, but I think this is time for Garza and Andrade to have a run with the belts.
Next up, we have the Fiend Bray Wyatt taking on the monster Braun Strowman for the WWE Universal Championship. And this was the hardest match for me to call in this entire predictions. So my thinking goes down one of two routes. We either have Bray pick up the win here, even though I don't really personally feel he needs the belt. You could have the Fiend as champion again. You could maybe throw Alexa in there as some sort of helper to the Fiend here, because we've had all that weird mind games going on. Maybe she will factor into it. Or we go down a completely different route, which, you know, it's just my brain. But personally, I think I could also see a situation in which Braun steamrolls the Fiend and then the Fiend disappears again, because the Fiend, I think it was after the last loss, he just disappeared for a while. The Fiend goes away and then you're just left with Bray, who has to answer for the fact that this thing he has unleashed on the company is now running wild. It could be an effective way to turn Bray face, I guess, but then at the same time, he's sort of already face. It's a hard one, but I think I'm going to go... I think, just out of Alexa helping him, surely it's got to be the Fiend.
I've got a feeling that most people are predicting a Fiend win here, and I wouldn't be upset about that at all, especially considering that Braun Strowman's title reign has been rubbish. However, I think Braun's winning here, and I think he's winning with help from Alexa Bliss. I think it's a big old swerve. I think we're going to see heel Alexa once again. She's going to be teamed up with Braun, WWE's new power couple, and then Braun will hopefully have a decent Universal title reign, because right now...
Next up, the match that, I don't know what's going to happen. Is it going to have a winner? Is it going to end by drowning once again? It's the Fiend versus the Universal Champion, Braun Strowman. Don't really know what to do in this one. I'm going to predict, I think, the Fiend to win and get the Universal title around his waist once again, because I feel like Braun is walking a dark path and he's not being true to himself in the build-up to this match. He's really trying to outscare the Fiend. He's turned his back on Alexa Bliss. It's all looking bad for Braun, and I just can't see them being unable to resist putting that belt back on the Fiend. So that Goldberg can come back in and smash him once again, and then Reigns will come in and take it from Goldberg. And if that doesn't happen, it might not happen, but would you put it past WWE in 2020? I probably wouldn't. The Fiend is going to take that title.
As we have seen, normal-ish Firefly Funhouse Bray, he has failed against Braun Strowman. Cult leader Bray, he failed against Braun Strowman. Already, the Fiend has murdered Braun Strowman while Braun Strowman was tripping balls after being bitten. The sangria's gone to be tits after being bitten by a snake or something like that. What happened there? I have no idea. But finally, I believe the Fiend will get the job done. Even though the Fiend should be nowhere near the Universal title after what happened last time, the Fiend will win. The Fiend will be Universal Champion, won't he, Chardonnay? Yes, he will.
I feel like this needs to be the Fiend reclaiming the WWE Universal Championship. We lost a lot of ground with the Fiend, I feel, when Goldberg beat him in Saudi Arabia. And we can recover that by having the Fiend become the man at SummerSlam. I don't feel like Braun has fully grown into this role as the top guy on SmackDown. So I feel like having the Fiend take that mantle and having Braun back chasing, that feels right to me.
And then next up we have the first of Asuka's 2 matches tonight, and this one is Asuka versus Sasha Banks for the WWE Raw Women's Championship. Now I'm going to go with Asuka in this one. I think it makes the most sense for her to win this belt if she was to win either of the two, because she's from Raw, it's the Raw title. But at the same time, my thinking here is that if Sasha loses the belt here, Bayley doesn't help her, and then Bayley wins her match, then Sasha's only got a tag belt. It's going to lead to a bigger divide between the two, and eventually, maybe in a pay-per-view's time, we're going to get them sort of exploding. But I think it's just going to lean into that, and it's going to apply more pressure to the pair of them.
Asuka versus Sasha. Asuka's losing this one. I'll explain why in a second.
Okay, the Ballad of Asuka, Part 1. Asuka versus Sasha Banks for the Raw Women's Championship. Although I think in the show itself, I think Bayley offered to face Asuka first. Not quite certain on that. No, I'm pretty sure she actually said that. Now, I'm going to go in this match, Asuka versus Sasha, for Asuka to take that Raw Women's Championship once again, and for Sasha to once again fall at the first hurdle of a title defense. I think I might be right in saying that she's never had a successful title defense in WWE, certainly on the main roster. Because when she was NXT Women's Champion, I think she was absolutely sound. I'm going to go for Asuka, and I'll explain why in the next bit.
I believe that Asuka will win the Raw Women's Championship because I finally believe this is the weekend. Yes, I've said this about 4 or 5 times already in 2020. This is the weekend where the golden role models will explode. Sasha Banks will have had enough of Bayley's crap, and this loss here will be the next thing to get her going radio rental and turning on Bayley. It's going to happen. Please make it happen. Each and every month it doesn't happen, I look more like a tit.
This one is going to Asuka. I believe Asuka is walking out of SummerSlam back as Raw Women's Champion. I think Bayley will try and get involved in some way, shape or form, and it will go terribly wrong. Consequently, Asuka will become the Raw Women's Champion once again, and we will continue to plant those seeds for the big Bayley Banks betrayal. Blimey.
And then next we go straight into Asuka's second match, Asuka versus Bayley for the WWE SmackDown Women's title. And I guess just see my prior prediction. I think that Bayley is going to retain here, and it's going to put pressure on that relationship between her and Banks.
I've already said there that I think that Asuka is going to lose the first women's title match of the night, the one against Sasha Banks. I want that match to be a competitive professional wrestling match between 2 of the best women's wrestlers on the planet today. Asuka is plum tuckered after this. She's lost. She's distraught. And then Bayley gets in the ring and says, right, our match is right now. She's taken advantage. Bayley has, of course, got an easy ride. Of course she's going to win. Does she win? You know the answer to that. No, she doesn't. Asuka defeats Bayley, the ultimate underdog. Bayley is just shocked. She doesn't know what to do. Now, it's Sashi 2 belts, and Bayley only has 1. The tension builds and builds. Eventually, maybe even the following week at Payback, is that too soon? But thanks to Bayley's selfishness, ineptitude, they drop the women's titles, and then Sasha is the only one with any gold. This all leads to a match between Bayley and Sasha at an upcoming pay-per-view, maybe Survivor Series. It doesn't even really need the strap on the line there, because it's a proper grudge match. Babyface Banks, horrible bastard Bayley. Give it to me. I know the brands don't make sense. Leave it alone in the comments. This is better, all right?
Right, Bayley versus Asuka. I've got Bayley picking up the win and retaining the SmackDown Women's Championship, driving a wedge between herself and Sasha Banks. We already know they're defending their tag team titles at Payback. I think they're going to lose those titles and it's going to drive them even further apart and they're all going to blow up and then they'll have a feud over Bayley's SmackDown Women's Championship. But for that to happen, Bayley needs to be SmackDown Women's Champion and therefore needs to beat Asuka. I'm slightly worried that Asuka might get the win via DQ or Bayley just chickening out and running away to infuriate Sasha further. But no, I think Bayley's got it in the bag here, and she is my prediction.
Now, as we heard on one of the WWE shows not so long ago, Bayley claimed that a match she was taking part in, where the stipulation was if Asuka wins, Asuka gets a shot at Bayley's supposed best friend Sasha Banks' Raw Women's title. Bayley claimed that match there that she was involved in, where she was fighting on behalf of Sasha Banks, she claimed that didn't matter, but now at SummerSlam, with her women's title on the line, Bayley claims this match will matter, and Bayley claims this means she'll try, or something like that. So I believe Bayley will retain her SmackDown Women's title, but this will be it. This will be the moment where Sasha Banks goes, hey, what's the crack with that? That match where my title's in jeopardy, that doesn't matter to you, Pamela, but this match where your title's in jeopardy, pardon me, it matters to you, does it, Pamela? This is it. This is it. I'm spitting everywhere, I'm getting angry. Sasha Banks will turn on Bayley right here and now, and that'll be it for the autumn. Sasha and Bayley, the SmackDown Women's title. It makes sense to... Are you alright there, Chardonnay? Right, sorry, I need to add one more bit to that prediction. I can see you in the comments now going, but Ross, what about Payback next week, where Sasha Banks and Bayley will be defending their women's tag team titles? And to that I will say, how many times down the years have WWE done the whole thing? How can these tag team partners coincide? I reckon we'll see that again. That explains your concerns, so there. Thanks.
For this one, I'm predicting Bayley to walk away as SmackDown Women's Champion. I think this match will actually go on before Sasha versus Asuka, and we will see Sasha help Bayley retain her title. So consequently, it'll be, thanks Sasha for helping me retain, I'll help you later on. The help later on goes wrong. Let's keep planting them seeds.
And finally, we have Drew McIntyre defending his WWE Championship against Randy Orton. And come on, it's got to be Drew, surely. I know that I'm just being really selfish. He's Britain's champion. I want to see him in the UK, in front of a crowd with that belt. It's probably not going to happen. And I am just being selfish. But I just don't think I want to see Randy with the belt again at this stage. I just want Drew to keep on keeping on. You know? Yeah.
Sorry, Drew. But I'm going for Randall Keith, champion. This is taking nothing away from Drew McIntyre as WWE champion. Given the circumstances, he has had one hell of a run. The poor bloke won it in front of no crowd, has been defending it in front of fake crowds, and now he's defending it in front of a bunch of pixels. But Randall Keith is on fire right now. Legend Killer 2.0 Orton is my favourite Orton ever. Seriously, I think he's that good right now. I think he's the best heel in WWE and arguably the best heel in all of professional wrestling. Sorry, MJF. So as much as I like Drew, I think Randy's going to pick up the win here. And I think he might even hold it all the way to WrestleMania, where we will get for the WWE Championship, Randall Keith versus Adam Pacitti. No, Copeland. Orton Edge WWE title main event WrestleMania next year. Money. But this completely depends, and you're only allowed to do this, Vince, if you give Drew another run with the title down the line where he can get a big old pop, because the bloke deserves it, Jesus Christ. But Orton, go on, my son.
Finally, the WWE title match between Randall Keith and Drew McIntyre. A few months ago, if you'd said to me that Randy Orton was the favourite going into this match, I would be absolutely livid because Drew's title reign would be in danger and he hasn't had it in front of a big crowd yet. Now, at the same time, Randy's been fantastic recently. Everyone he's been feuding with, he's just managed to pour so much intensity into those storylines. And I think, in a way, he kind of deserves it. He kind of deserves to be given a run with the belt once again. He's never really been given a chance in the past, so Might as well. I also think that WWE are desperate for ratings, especially on Raw, and I think that with Randy as the champion, he's more of a draw than Drew is because of his historic name value and everything he's done in the past. I just can't see Drew walking out of this as WWE champion once again. But I do hope that in future, when fans are starting to get back into venues, then they'll give Drew the big title win and he can finally hold that belt aloft in front of an adoring crowd. But Randy Orton for now is my pick for this title match.
Finally, I believe that Randall Keith will win the WWE title from Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam 2020, because quite frankly, if you're not going to do it now with Randy Orton, after Randy Orton has been the most interesting he's been since all the way back in 2009, when are you ever going to have Randy Orton win the WWE title? Plus, I think it makes a lot of sense. You have Randy Orton win on Sunday, Randy Orton holds it until crowds get back in the arena, and then Drew McIntyre, Valiant Daddy Claymore Drew McIntyre can, get the big crowd popping victory he didn't get at WrestleMania, when the crowds are back in the arenas, whenever that might be. It could be 2022, a 2-year Randy Orton title reign. All for it, as long as he's being this kind of bastard. All the best to you.
I feel like Drew McIntyre is retaining the championship here. I've gone back and forth on this one more than any other. Randy Orton certainly seems to be in a pole position to become the champion here. But I feel like at SummerSlam, they're going to give Drew that big win to send whoever's there home happy. Just a nice positive win to end this first night on the Thunderdome pay-per-view era. Send them home happy with Drew winning the belt. Maybe have Orton win the belt at Payback. That could be the way we go.
And those are our predictions for WWE SummerSlam 2020. As I said in the intro, and I'm just going to read this off the script because I'm going to forget something and I'll not inform you of it. We've got all the regular post-SummerSlam content coming up, including, obviously a live stream. Adam's going to be live streaming. We're going to have What Happened Out, we're going to have Graded, we're going to have WTF, all the usual stuff. So make sure that you're checking into the channel, and I hope you all have a wonderful SummerSlam.